Another day, another month, another mass shooter mentions PewDiePie in his blog. So, this guy named Turkey Tom made a video titled, The PewDiePie Effect, Why His Critics Hate Blah Blah Blah. Basically, half of this video is talking about PewDiePie's rise, and the other half is talking about people who don't like PewDiePie. This video was uploaded 3 days after my PewDiePie Problems video, and it's perfect timing, really. Because there was one topic I really wanted to get into for mine, but I cut out because it was already too long anyway, and that's PewDiePie's fans. So I'm going to use Turkey Tom as a tool for this trichotomy. It's not threatening violence, it's a life-saving procedure. Before we dive in, you should know I'm only picking on this guy because he recently popped up in my feed, and he's kind of a perfect example of the person I wanted to argue against. And this way I don't have to use a straw man. So this turkey is fair game. Alright, we're skipping the boring biography and getting to the good stuff. It starts with a short montage using music that I know Turkey Tom does not have the rights to. Showing a bunch of headlines talking about PewDiePie's drama. And it's all followed by,
as some of you already know, a campaign to defame PewDiePie has been around since almost the beginning of his channel.
Now, I know that nuance is difficult for some people, but no. Unless you think the truth is defamation, these articles are pretty fair and honest about the shit PewDiePie's done. So what's going on here is one of two things. So if we were being really charitable here and talking about PewDiePie's defenders like this, many of these accounts of the PewDiePie versus media drama are second or third hand accounts, usually traced back to PewDiePie's videos on these things and the things he said, and not the actual articles themselves. When you pull these articles up, you would see they're all pretty accurate. I suspect so many people believe this partly because of his cult of personality and fan base that he's built up over the years. These tens of millions of subscribers all enjoy his content and laugh with him almost every single day. So they begin to feel something of a connection to him. So when someone outside of his community says, hey now, these things are kind of messed up. So PewDiePie's fans respond negatively like it's a personal attack on a friend of theirs. You're not a fan of his. You don't get that these are just jokes. But at the same time, they've been in this community and they've been around these kind of messed up things for so long now that they don't realize how they look to other people who aren't members of this fandom. They also partly respond to this because the Wall Street Journal has a paywall on its article, which is kind of sketch in 2019. I do wish they dropped the paywall, but it really wouldn't help at this point. People would still claim things should be taken out of context. For example, one common thing that I've seen claimed a lot is that the Wall Street Journal took a single frame out of a video where PewDiePie had his arm up and they said he's giving a Hitler salute. And I've seen a lot of people say that this was being taken out of context. Okay, while I was editing this, I just realized that I didn't actually record a clip of me talking about this comment. So here we go. You're missing a lot of the things that PewDiePie pointed out in his response video for the Fiverr situation. Wall Street Journal took a frame of a video where he pointed to something off screen and convinced people that it was a Hitler salute by taking it out of context. They took a clip where he satirized the media by dressing up in a soldier outfit and watching a Hitler speech that took out of context as well. Call me a PewDiePie fanboy, but almost all their evidence is bullshit. They may or may not have a vendetta against PewDiePie, but it seems so obvious to me that they care more about clicks than actual truth. Funny thing about this, if you pull up the actual article, like I did, you'd see that no, they're not calling PewDiePie a Nazi. They're simply saying that PewDiePie has a lot of Nazi imagery in his videos, which is absolutely 100% true. The implication being it's just some random moment where he had his arm in the air, and not that he was giving a salute. However, funny thing about that is that video is still up, by the way. And no, there are clips of Nazi rallies in that video.
I have dyed my hair. Little teenage girls will bow before me. They will buy all my merchandise. They will click like on all my videos. Some say I am the new Tana Mungo of the internet.
Look, it's right here, you tools. He brought the Nazi shit up himself. This is not out of context. Stop fucking lying, you lying fucks. You could say he's trying to joke that he's becoming a Nazi. You could say that he's trying to make a joke about, I don't know, being a dictatorial leader. But he brought the Nazi stuff up. It's not entirely out of context. And I mean, there's not really a punchline. That's kind of important for a joke. Not that PewDiePie would understand what, comedy and class is. Of course, none of that even matters. All of that is assuming that these PewDiePie fans are genuine and not actual fascists.
Now, obviously, to any real human in the audience who has any idea of PewDiePie or understands anything about online culture, this is straight up slander.
Actually, it would be libel as it's written word. We're going to nerd out a little bit about this. The Wall Street Journal is based in the US, obviously. In the US, there are a few requirements for defamation cases. I've done the research. The most obvious one is that a defamatory statement has to be false. Now, if it's true or a genuinely held opinion, it's not false. In the United States, with our First Amendment, that sets a pretty high bar for defamation. And the other big requirement is you have to be able to prove damages. Normally that you lost out monetarily or you lost your job or something of the sort. But in PewDiePie's case, the network he was with, the Disney Digital Network, severed ties with him. I think it's pretty obvious that does count as damages. So I want to point out that PewDiePie has never sued any media institutions or members for defamation. I know some people might say he's a nice guy who doesn't want to get bogged down in a lawsuit, but you think if this really is slander and defamation, you think maybe losing your job with the network probably a good reason to sue somebody, right? Kind of exactly the thing you want to sue over. If it was defamation, why did PewDiePie remove his first video making fun of the Wall Street Journal? A little damning.
And Felix is not alt-right or promoting alt-right content by any stretch of the imagination. All he did was make some jokes, and while they may be off-color to most, they're still jokes at the end of the day. Nothing more, really.
Oh no, I get it. You're being a chicken shit. Would that be turkey shit? I imagine it's kind of similar. People like you and PewDiePie don't really want to be held responsible for your actions. Can you even imagine having to put some level of social responsibility into your work? Just putting any amount of thought and pride into your work and not just shitting out content like you've got Crohn's disease? I'm going to work one of these jokes into every single video.
All he did was make some jokes.
I bet you guys, if we all started saying hashtag
Death to PewDiePie,
they would not find it funny. They would not consider it a joke. How much you want to bet? I would bet a lot. His next bit, he goes on a bit about media institutions.
All of these institutions are losing money pretty rapidly, with places like BuzzFeed being forced to lay off 15% of their workforce all at once.
Gee, where have we heard that before? Oh yeah, he's repeating what PewDiePie previously said about them.
Here's a graph of the newspaper ad revenue from digital and print, showing decrease of revenue in the media.
I also got this one comment saying something similar, but by the third sentence, they start citing Project Veritas. Oh no. That's probably one of the worst things you can ever cite. I know YouTube comments are a horrible cesspit. It's just kind of funny to me that I got that on a PewDiePie video.
Since that initial incident, it seems like every blue checkmark journalist on Twitter has been railing on PewDiePie and trying to make him look bad in the public eye.
So Turkey Tom tries to do a bit of investigative journalism here. Emphasis on tries.
For example, recently Felix unfollowed everyone on Twitter, apart from the K-pop people.
go kill yourself.
Because he was being called out by people like Kit O'Connell, gonzo journalist, he, him, disabled, queer, polyamorous, proudly anti-fascist.
Oh gee, he went with NPCs. How clever and original. Tom himself is, of course, another cartoon avatar because he's too insecure and scared to show his face. At least it's not a furry, I suppose. Or a demon.
Oh, well, you seem to be a pretty special person there, kid. Being the major anti-fascist you are, I'm sure you've got some well-thought-out opinions and ideals here on this lovely little Twitter account. I mean, you're even verified. That must count for something, right?
Hey, good job finding this blue check mark with 7K followers. Yeah, stellar detective work. But maybe if you added a suit to your avatar, it would complete the look.
Here are some of the Nazi scum PewDiePie was following until recently. Why was he following them? Because PewDiePie is a fucking Nazi. I mean, I know for a fact that none of those people are Nazis.
Oh boy. He doesn't give any evidence to explain how he knows none of these people are Nazis. So, because of this, I am forced to explain rudimentary philosophy. Thank you for coming to Professor Attack's Philosophy 101. You don't have to buy books. I'm not really a professor, but if PragerU can get away with it, why can't I? The one kind of fundamental thing you learn is that you can never truly understand what's going on in someone's head. There's no possible way you can deductively reason this. Because of this, you have to use inductive reasoning to infer what's going on. So none of the people on this list would ever openly admit to being a Nazi. And I am assuming that this lack of admission is Turkey Tom's evidence. In the 21st century, very few people would ever admit to being a Nazi. That's bad praxis. Everyone would disregard you right away. So for us non-Nazis, what we must do is look at these people and inductively reason by looking at their actions where their political ideologies lie. This requires a fair to moderate amount of brain power to do. And when someone does put in the work for this, it's a lot harder to disprove. So Turkey Tom decided to pick this one particular person who called PewDiePie and the people he followed Nazis, because that's a hell of a lot easier to argue against than someone saying, hey, I think all of these people are right-wing extremists, racists, and raging fascists, and here's all the evidence I have to support this claim. That's a lot harder to argue against. But okay, for what it's worth, I personally wouldn't call anybody on that list a Nazi. I think fascist is a little more appropriate. The line does get a little blurry. And I would, however, say that a number of people on this list are explicit white nationalists and right-wing extremists. Or they are very closely tied with them. Well, you know, like I said, blurred lines in some cases. But okay, whatever. Let's see what else he has to say.
Let's just say you genuinely thought that ideologically they were all Nazis. You know, just for argument's sake. Ben Shapiro and Ethan Klein are both Jewish. You know, the people that the Nazis killed 6 million of. That kind of Jewish.
So putting aside that there are always minorities who advocate for positions that hurt themselves and the minority groups that they belong to, and also putting aside that historically there were Jews that helped the Nazis and collaborated with them and got a lot of other Jewish people killed, this is why he went for the Nazi comparison. It's a lot easier for him, instead of finding someone who says, hey, Ben Shapiro is a pretty far-right figure. He's really shitty because he's really racist, homophobic, and transphobic, and it's really shitty that PewDiePie himself is associating with him and giving him a lot of views like this. And he delivered this moment like it was a really great point, which is not very true. It's not exactly what I would call rigorous intellectual debate. Also, Ethan Klein is not being called a Nazi. He's not even in this picture. Where the fuck did you pull that from, Turkey Tom? Have you guys ever met a turkey before? Like a real-life turkey? You know, the kind people eat on Thanksgiving? They're really dumb. I think the drowning in the rain thing is a myth. It sounds a little too silly to believe to me. But they are still really stupid. That's a perfect name for Tom, really. Like, it's so perfect, I don't think he's smart enough to come up with it himself.
So are you lying, or are you just retarded?
No, I'm not gonna fault someone for using the word retarded. You know, faulting someone for individual words, it's not really a good argument. But am I alone in feeling a little uncomfortable that he's calling this person retarded while their Twitter bio is still on the screen and it says disabled and queer? Does that make you guys feel a little awkward? A little uncomfortable? Because I feel a little uncomfortable hearing this. I don't know, man. The context and combination, I don't like it. It's a little weird. I got a similar comment on my last video. Autistic soylent drinking manlet searching for clout with Pewd's name. So TT's not alone here. Some PewDiePie fans like to talk like this whenever their daddy gets insulted, apparently. People who are not ContraPoints should stop doing Foony skits in their YouTube essays. This is a nice change of pace being told I'm not funny, because when I was a kid, everyone would laugh at me.
Like, this is downright pathetic, and he's not really a part of a small minority either. Scrolling through Twitter, there are thousands of people who genuinely believe that he is alt-right or a white nationalist or whatever else.
Okay, so I found this part really, really funny. If you look at the tweets as he's scrolling past, you can see he's done a search for the words PewDiePie and Nazi. But none of the tweets that he's showing on screen are actually calling PewDiePie a Nazi. Most of them are just mentioning that other people are doing it. Gee, you fucked that one up, Tommy.
It really boggles the mind.
Are you gay?
Are you gay in 2019? I'm sure he thinks it's just a joke. Just a meme to you. But you're really not helping yourself here.
It's to think that there are actually real humans out there who believe that PewDiePie is a Nazi.
The only additional evidence he uses to show that people are calling PewDiePie a Nazi is this tweet from Casey Explosion. But the tweet says, it's more important that he is a gateway to the alt-right. Nazis want people to subscribe to him for this reason. Which, Turkey doesn't actually address. It's significantly harder to argue against. And it's easier for him to just say, they all think he's a Nazi. We can't reason with them.
Especially when their only real evidence is that he said the N-word, did a Fiverr meme, gave a shout out to someone who makes edgy jokes, and follows people who aren't far right on Twitter.
Aren't far right? Wait a minute. I thought they weren't Nazis. There's a difference, you know, and you didn't really disprove that either. Why do you think he started using a different term here? Let me read to you a couple similar comments from my last video about PewDiePie. Far-right extremists? Seriously? They are conservatives. Leftists really need to stop calling opinions that are different to their own extreme. There is nothing extreme about those opinions. Pro-life conservative person. Leftists. OMG, what an extremely alt-right opinion to have. They are conservative. What on earth would you expect? You seem like a smart guy. It's the first time I don't even care about all this. Yeah, Stefan, Paul, Lauren is somewhat sketchy as they aren't really conservative, but calling them far-right extremists has quite a stretch. However, throwing Shapiro, Crowder, Jordan Peterson, Dave Rubin in there is completely absurd. Lauren Southern went to another country and tried to stop boats she thought were carrying refugees. She also believes that white populations are being displaced. Paul Joseph Watson is the second face of InfoWars, and literally everything he says is a grift trying to make money off his boner pills. Stephen Molyneux is quite open about being a white nationalist. Stephen Crowder is an open fascist with an open dislike of democracy. Ben Shapiro is racist, and a lot more than that. These are the actions of extremists. These are extremists. But you see why they set things up this way? They can't grapple with the actual arguments being set forth, because anything they say is going to be wrong. So what they do is they reframe them. You know, they lie. It's just a no-no word. Just some memes. Just some jokes. They're not white nationalists. They're not extremists. Nah. You're the one who's crazy. It's gaslighting.
Is this really all you guys got? I mean, I was going to explain more about this, but I guess my job is done.
Oh, there's definitely more, but he doesn't give a shit. He's aware of the absurdity of his replies.
Felix clearly isn't far-right, or if he isn't supporting far-right content in any way.
Clearly that's bullshit. Turkey shit.
No amount of crazy Australians streaming themselves killing Muslims will change that. If this guy had said, "May the Force be with you," no one would say that Star Wars caused him to commit the shooting, and no one would say that George Lucas or Disney had anything to do with it.
Avoid that responsibility. Come on, dodge it. You can do it.
But just because he said subscribe to PewDiePie, now somehow it's Felix's fault, and he's normalizing hate speech on the internet.
Spend an hour in the bathroom so you can avoid washing the dishes with your family.
A YouTube channel by the name of Non-Compete made a video about how edgy humor leads to violence, and it was not good.
This part is great. You should watch Turkey Tom's and Non-Compete's video, because you can see that Turkey Tom doesn't really address any of the arguments being put forth by Non-Compete. In fact, he literally does the exact same things Non-Compete accuses PewDiePie of doing.
But I do think PewDiePie and some of his fellow popular YouTubers share some responsibility with thousands of other figures, large and small, who contribute to a large and insidious pipeline of violence that fit within the framework of something called stochastic terrorism.
Wow, entertainers and people in the world influence other people's ideas. Idea sharing and joke sharing and information communication exists? What a monumental, profound, fucking genius observation.
Imagine my shock. I'm not going to focus too much on this part because Non-Compete is totally capable of defending himself.
Here are just some examples of racist attitudes and beliefs that nearly all of us have internalized to some extent or another. Black people are more likely to be criminals, Muslims are more likely to be terrorists, gay people are more likely to be promiscuous. Some of these attitudes and beliefs are so deeply embedded in our subconscious minds that they're borderline instinctive.
No, I really think that's just you, buddy.
You remember when I said it was gaslighting?
I failed to see how making a few edgy jokes should make him even remotely responsible for a shooting, and it certainly isn't doing anything like normalizing fascism.
Yeah, because you're not engaging in good faith.
And while it may be true that exposing young people to that kind of humor can draw them to places like Pole, where some of those ideologies congregate, I'd also argue that those people would be exposed to that humor anyway, as it's somewhat inescapable today considering the amount of different creators perpetuating that comedy.
So with this line, he just kind of disproved what little arguments he had. What a shocker. That was not good, Turkey Tom. Not good at all. I'm glad he brought Pole up, though. Let me present to the court some evidence I have acquired. First, let me say that I am just making an observation, not pushing an agenda, but I think he is just fucking around and playing with current cultural trends for their entertainment value, which is a valid thing to do. However, I think he underestimates the effect of how using these symbols actually normalizes these images in the public eye. Think about what he is doing here. He is presenting Hitler and Trump, not that they are the same or even similar, in a positive context without any attempt to attack their messages or politics. Now, even 5 years ago, it would have been unthinkable to do this for almost anyone. One might have been able to pull it off in a movie or something, but it was all usually countered with a plot which painted Nazis in a negative light. PewDiePie isn't doing that. It's actually becoming acceptable to display this stuff in the absence of a counter-narrative for entertainment value. Again, PewDiePie does not support this stuff, and is just doing this for some kicks. Now, 50 million people are watching Hitler messages and Trump hatting with a giggle, and not moral outrage anymore. It may just be comedy, but think about how massive a shift this is in the Overton window. People can now openly talk about Hitler, show his likeness, pretend to support his message, actually, or for comedic value, in PewDiePie's case, in public, and get away with it. Think about how massive a shift this is, guys. It is an unfathomable cultural shift that is going on here. Really. It is major stuff.
Blaming him or even associating him with this issue causes more division by making you look like an idiot than it actually problem solves. Him saying subscribe to PewDiePie wasn't white nationalist code or something absurd like that. It was him being a troll, as you would probably call it, and trying to make you think that Felix has something to do with Nazism, or shootings, or supremacy.
The phrase, subscribe to PewDiePie, is perhaps the greatest dog whistle of all time. Something so benign and trivial allows for the perfect plausible deniability. Positive and neutral comments on social media can end with subscribe to PewDiePie to infer a much more politically incorrect tone to people who are in the know. When a leftist calls you out for using it, you can feign ignorance and claim that you simply enjoy his content. It's brilliant. Thank you to my May Patreon backers, Susie M. and Joshua Mollenhauer. I love you guys.